Yo, what is going on, Headliner Nation? It's your boy, The Doc, and I am back to 100% this week. I know that last week I was hurt, and I appreciate all the comments. I know you guys care about me, but for anybody who's new to the show, this is where I, an actual doctor, break down the entire NFL slate, tell you guys which injuries you need to be paying attention to for your fantasy team. So let's jump right into it and talk about some injuries. All right, before we get into the main slate, we do have 2 moments of silence this week for players that had injuries that will end their fantasy season. Both cornerbacks this week, so a rough week in week 4 for cornerbacks. First up, we got Pats rookie Christian Gonzalez. He has a torn labrum after a shoulder dislocation. He's opting for surgery. He is done for the year. And then Tre'Davious White, cornerback for the Bills, has a torn Achilles. He is also done for the year. Moment of silence for those 2 corners. All right, let's head into the games that have already happened. Thursday Night Football, Bears putting a big win on the Commanders. Bears were dealing with a few injuries at their cornerback position as well. Eddie Jackson had a foot sprain. He was out last night. Jalen Johnson still dealing with a hamstring injury. He's out as well. Tevin Jenkins, a guard, is returning from IR. He was able to play. Roschon Johnson left with a concussion, so some injuries for the Bears. Commanders were pretty healthy, made it through the game unscathed. Now, we do have 4 teams on bye this week as well. Browns, Chargers, Seahawks, Bucks, so we're not going to be talking about those teams. So we're going to head straight into the early Sunday games, and we got Jags at the Bills, a London game. Pay attention to your lineups. Make sure you set those Saturday night because this London game is getting started very early on Sunday. Jags have wide receiver Zay Jones coming back from the knee sprains, got limited practices in all week. Looks like he will be able to play. As for the Bills, safety Jordan Poyer was dealing with a knee sprain, missed week 3. Back to practice this week, though, limited and then a full practice. Poyer is going to be back this week, but they do have defensive end Gregory Rousseau dealing with a foot injury. He has not practiced all week, does not look like he is going to be able to play. And then they also have potentially a returner from IR. Now, note, players that were placed on IR to start the season are allowed to return this week, so I'll be talking about quite a few players that could potentially return this week. First one we got is linebacker Von Miller. He's coming off that ACL tear last year, has gotten limited practice in this week so far. Still questionable to return this week, but did have his practice window opened up and did travel with the team. So there's at least a chance that he's going to be able to suit up in this game. He is a game time decision. Heading over to the Texans at the Falcons. Texans running back Dameon Pierce had a knee issue that he was dealing with. Did get a full practice in on Thursday. Looks like he's going to be all right. Offensive tackle Laramie Tunsil dealing with a knee injury. He's back practicing in a limited capacity. Missed last week. Looks like he's on track to play. And then they also have a player returning from IR. Offensive tackle Titus Howard had a hand fracture. He is back practicing in full. Looks like he will be able to return to a banged up offensive line that is getting healthy right now. The Texans have been playing good football. CJ Stroud has looked good, but despite having all these offensive line injuries, so I'm excited to see what he looks like with an actual healthy line. As for the Falcons, no major injuries, so we're heading over to the Panthers at the Lions. Panthers running back Miles Sanders still dealing with that groin strain. He's limited in practice, continues to be limited by this groin strain that he had all the way back in the preseason. I'm sitting him this week. He has not looked good, has not been putting up fantasy numbers for your team. As for the Lions, cornerback Brian Branch dealing with an ankle sprain, has not practiced yet this week. Doesn't look like he's going to be able to play. Wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown has an abdominal injury. Not a lot of info on this yet. It doesn't look like it's a sports hernia, but I am concerned. Has not practiced at all yet, but he said he plans on playing this week. The back-to-back DNPs, though, have me a little bit concerned about his overall health. If he plays, you're probably starting him, but just know he is banged up right now. The team also has a returning wide receiver in Jamison Williams, was supposed to miss 6 games. The team and the NFL as a whole has changed their rules with the gambling policy, so he is able to return this week. He did have a hamstring issue in the preseason, so looks like he is back practicing in full. and it does seem like he could be able to return this week. Heading over the Titans at the Colts. Titans wide receiver Treylon Burks dealing with a knee injury. He's had knee issues for a long time in his career. Didn't practice at all yet this week. Doesn't look like he's going to be able to suit up, leading to another solid starting opportunity for wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins. Now, the Colts don't have any major injuries to talk about, but they do have a potential big returning player in Jonathan Taylor, the running back, dealing with an ankle sprain. That's what he was placed on IR with. He's practicing in full again. Does look like he is going to be able to play this week. So if you've been sitting on Jonathan Taylor, looks like we could see a start for him. And I know that everybody in the fantasy space is looking for some Jonathan Taylor to come back and see what he looks like with Anthony Richardson. It's something we've been dreaming about since they drafted Anthony Richardson. Looks like we're finally going to be able to see it this week. Now, moving on to the Giants at the Dolphins. Giants, all sorts of offensive line issues. They've got 3 starting offensive linemen that have not practiced at all. Doesn't look like they're going to play. Shane Lemieux, their guard, John Michael Smith, the center, and offensive tackle Andrew Thomas, all dealing with separate injuries, have not practiced. Doesn't look like they're going to be able to play. So running back Saquon Barkley, coming back from that ankle sprain, has gotten back-to-back limited practices in. Looks like he is going to be able to play this week, but playing behind one of the most injured offensive lines in the league. Looks like he's going to be more of a low-end RB2 for me coming off the injury. I would consider starting quite a few other guys over Saquon Barkley his first week back. As for the Dolphins, they've got some tackle issues as well. Teron Armstead got rolled up on in last week's game. He has not practiced yet this week. Does not look like he is going to be able to play. Heading over to the Saints at the Patriots. Saints tight end Juwan Johnson dealing with a calf injury. Hasn't practiced yet this week. Does not look like he is going to be able to play. But tight end Foster Moreau, coming off the ankle sprain, has gotten back-to-back full practices. A deep dart throw at tight end if you are desperate, but I'm not expecting him to do a whole lot. As for the Patriots, linebacker Matt Judon has a torn bicep. He is expected to miss the next 2 to 3 months with this injury. Technically not season ending, but it's highly unlikely that we see Matt Judon again this year. And then running back Ramondre Stevenson dealing with a thigh injury. Limited practices so far this week. Not a lot of talk about this injury so far. Haven't really found a solid diagnosis of what is going on with the thigh. Is it a contusion? Is it a strain? I don't really know, so it's hard for me to say. Has not looked great to start the year, but I can't really tell if that is Ramondre's fault or if the offense as a whole is just hot garbage. This team is looking really bad, and they need Ramondre to be healthy. But it could open up some opportunity for Ezekiel Elliott to play a little bit more this week if he is banged up, and it looks like he is. Heading into the last game of the early slate, we got Ravens at the Steelers. Ravens getting healthy. Again, not good for my Steelers. Wide receiver Rashad Bateman's back practicing in full from his hamstring injury. He is likely to play. Same thing with Odell Beckham Jr. coming off the ankle sprain. He's back practicing in a limited capacity. Looks like he will be able to play. And then they got some help coming back for the running back position. Justice Hill was dealing with foot and hamstring injuries. He's been practicing all week. Looks like he's going to be able to play. And then they're also returning running back Keaton Mitchell, the rookie, coming off that shoulder injury off of IR. He's getting full practices. It looks like he will be able to make his debut, but I don't know how much run he's going to get with all of the running backs seemingly healthy for the Ravens outside of J.K. Dobbins, who's done for the year. As for the Steelers quarterback, Kenny Pickett dealing with a knee injury. Limited practice, but did get a full practice in on Thursday. So started out a little bit banged up. He said he's going to play despite leaving week 4 with this knee injury. Looks like he will be able to play. But tight end Pat Freiermuth, he is going to be done for a few weeks. He's got a hamstring injury that appears pretty serious. Did not practice at all this week. Do not expect him back for the next couple of weeks. All right, heading into the midday slate for Sunday, we got Bengals at the Cardinals. Bengals wide receiver T. Higgins dealing with a rib fracture, has not practiced yet this week. Don't expect Higgins back for the next 2 to 3 weeks, maybe even longer with the rib fracture. But tight end Irv Smith is coming back from the hamstring strain, got a full practice in on Thursday. He should be back. As for the Cardinals, they're actually pretty healthy. So we're going to move on to the Eagles at the Rams. Eagles are healthy as well. No major injuries to talk about there. Rams running back back Kyron Williams dealing with a hip injury. Didn't practice Wednesday, limited Thursday. Was able to finish the game last week, so I do expect him to play despite this injury. I think he is going to be able to suit up. And another guy that is going to be suiting up for the Rams, they're going to be excited about this. Returning wide receiver Cooper Kupp had a hamstring strain that kept him out of all of the preseason and the first 4 games of the year. He had a full practice in on Thursday. They are looking for him to come back this week. Huge win for Matt Stafford and the Rams passing game that was actually looking pretty good without Cooper Kupp. So I'm excited to see how they integrate him back into this offense now that they've found the new greatest wide receiver in the league, Puka Nacua. Heading over to the Jets at the Broncos. Jets, no major injuries to talk about. Broncos running back Javonte Williams is dealing with a quad injury. Didn't practice Wednesday, limited Thursday. Looks like he is still on track to play, but has been a massive disappointment if you are expecting to start him week in, week out. I'm not expecting him to put up more than RB3 numbers the rest of the year. Javonte Williams, a guy I'm not really excited for if I have him in my fantasy lineups this week. Now, last game of the mid-Sunday slate, we got Chiefs at the Vikings, and actually nobody to talk about in this game. So we're just going to head on to the Sunday night game, Cowboys at 49ers. Cowboys linebacker Micah Parsons has a knee sprain, limited practices all week. He tweaked the knee, but did play through it. He's probably closer to 80% this week than 100%, but he's still possibly a top 10 defender. Even with this injury, I'm not really too worried about it. He's been able to play through. As for the 49ers, running back Elijah Mitchell, still dealing with a knee issue. Has not practiced yet this week. Does not look like he is going to be able to play. And then wide receiver Deebo Samuel dealing with a knee injury himself. He's been banged up the last few weeks. Limited practices all week. Looks like he's going to be able to play, but hopefully week 4 is not a sign of things to come for Deebo Samuel. Huge dud in week 4. The last time he tried to play through some injuries, really let everybody down. So if you have another option than Deebo, I'm maybe considering it, but if you don't, I'm still okay with starting him. He should be able to play. Last game of the week, we got Monday Night Football, Packers at the Raiders. Packers running back Aaron Jones dealing with a hamstring strain, was able to play last week. He's been practicing it in a limited capacity. Of course, it's just Thursday reports from this, so it's a walkthrough. I would expect him to be limited in a walkthrough anyway, so keep an eye on Aaron Jones. Wasn't able to get a whole lot going in his return last week, but I'm hoping the extended rest period from Thursday all the way to Monday is going to have him on track for a bounce back, typical Aaron Jones performance this week. As for the Raiders, wide receiver Devontae Adams left momentarily in the game for a shoulder injury. Did not practice on Thursday, but still put up decent numbers last week. I am expecting him to play through this injury again, but just keep an eye on it because sometimes things progress later once the adrenaline has worn off for the shoulder. And then quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo dealing with that concussion, kept him out last week. I kind of warned everybody that that could be a chance for Aiden O'Connell to get a start and get a look at him with Jimmy Garoppolo coming off the concussion, and it appears that I was right about that. Now, Aiden O'Connell did have a rough debut, but I did think that he was at least serviceable as a backup quarterback. Regardless, I still think Jimmy Garoppolo is coming back this week and should start against Green Bay. That's it for the injury update show this week. Appreciate you guys bearing through me being sick last week. Let me know in the comments if I missed anybody, and make sure that you're liking the video. Subscribe to the channel, guys. We are on the cusp of 200,000 subscribers, and that is a huge thank you to you guys. And let's be honest, I want this video to be the one that puts us over the edge. Maybe Jake will throw me a little something extra in my paycheck this week if we can get to that 200,000 mark with this injury video. But I digress. Make sure that you're heading over to our friends at Manscaped. Use the code HEADLINERS, get 20% off and free shipping on your order. Make sure you're signing up at Pristine Auction. We're giving away all sorts of good stuff. I know Jake's got some good giveaways when we hit that 200,000 mark. over at Pristine Auction. Sign up, use the code Headliners, let them know that we sent you. And of course, if your team is not doing that hot in fantasy, it's the best time to start playing some daily fantasy with Underdog Fantasy. Use the code Headliners, get $100 first deposit match. But that's all I got for you guys this week. Appreciate you. And if you have some time and want to become a member of Headliner Nation, hit the join button down below. I'm giving injury updates every single Sunday morning over on our exclusive Discord channel. We are getting all sorts of injury updates throughout the week. It's the best place to ask me those questions that are really burning about your fantasy lineups. Really the best way to get a hold of anyone on the Fantasy Headliners. Hit the join button, become a member of the channel. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate Headliner Nation. Let's get to 200,000 on this video, and the doc is out.